Hi, welcome to another episode of Soul Snacking with Dr. Mary Amore. I'm Dr. Mary and I'm here with my co-host Alice Smith, and we are delighted that you have tuned into our program. Before we begin our show, let me tell you a little bit about the work that we do at Mayslake Ministries. Mayslake Ministries is a nonprofit ministry whose mission is to engage Catholics in a modern world. And we do this through a wide variety of avenues, including individual spiritual direction and counseling, weekend retreats, adult enrichment programs, inspiring blogs and videos, books, and television shows. Mayslake Ministries is also the only organization in the Midwest to offer free spiritual outreach to our military men and women who suffer from PTSD, the hidden and moral wounds of war. Over the years, we have helped hundreds of soldiers begin their spiritual process to healing and wholeness. Some of our other specialized programs include a caregiver's ministry, a marriage enrichment for couples, and a mom's ministry. Our programs are relevant to the ever-changing needs of today's believer. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, Mayslake Ministries has a program or service to help you. All people are welcome at Mayslake Ministries. For more information on the wide range of programs and services that we offer, I invite you to visit our website at mayslakeministries.org and follow us on Facebook to see the many ways that we can assist you on your walk with Christ. It is my hope that this TV show, Soul Snacking, will serve up some delicious and nourishing ways to feed your hungry spirit. We've got a great and interesting show for you today, for we're going to talk about what we call spiritual unspeakables, namely dealing with end-of-life issues for our loved ones. To help us in our conversation today, we are delighted to welcome back Deb Kelsey-Davis, our Mayslake Ministries Caregiving affiliate and founder of Soul to Soul Solutions. Welcome, Deb.
Oh, Mary, thank you. Thanks for having me here.
We're having some great conversations about caregiving for our loved ones and everything. But, today, I think we're going to talk about something that people don't want to face, and that is, how do we help our loved ones have a holy death? Now, what would you define as a caregiver, a professional caregiver, what would you define as or foresee as a holy death?
So when I think of holy death, it's changed with every single experience I've ever had. I was trained professionally as a nurse. So when I was with people when they died, I thought of holy at that point in time as just being present with them. And I still believe that's true. For many people, their wishes, what they want is what we honor, and they want someone there with them. But when I think of a holy death now, holy death means being there on the journey, being connected, helping someone transition from where we are on this earth into God's hands.
Right.
Holy death also, to me, incorporates the gifts of the church, the sacraments. Oftentimes we look at, as we walk towards our death, wanting those sacraments to carry us forth.
And I think, as believers, that's one of the best gifts we can give our loved ones. And it takes courage on our part to say, I want to bring in a priest. I remember my father-in-law, when he passed away, he was old school, so, he was sick, but not dying yet. And we wanted to bring the priest in. He goes, no, I'm dying, but, when finally we knew the time was there, we felt so comfortable giving him that gift of the last rites, of the final sacrament, to help him on his journey home. And it's a hard decision for family members to make, but it's the greatest gift we can give them.
Sure, yeah. And I'm thinking about a family where there's a lot of conflict. There is no peace in this situation. One daughter is doing this, another daughter is doing this. There's conflict, as opposed to the family that has no conflict.
Right.
Think about the peaceful death and the holy death that can ensue there. So that's part of society, and that's part of living. So
it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to talk about death.
No,
wisdom in the Unspeakables, and there are so many reasons why we should talk about death. Death is not the enemy. I want to put that out there.
Yes, absolutely.
Death is not the enemy. The enemy is pain. The enemy is suffering. The enemy are those things that are hard for us to watch what happens to someone, but it's not the enemy.
No.
And our faith tells us that. It's not a pleasant topic, I think, in society. It's one of those things where we're never taught or trained how to talk about it.
Exactly. But it's inevitable.
It's
and
reality.
I think if our faith is strong and we believe that we will go home to the Lord, then, it for us as caregivers, but also for family members, it's good to have everything. These are my wishes. And it's not, you're not being remote. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Yes, but I want to talk about it, and this is what I want done. So it takes the burden also off of the family member who's grieving the loss. And it makes for a more peaceful transition.
It does, and with my parents, it wasn't easy getting out of them what they wanted. Okay? And I would imagine there's probably many of you out there as well in our audience who are saying, wow, it isn't that easy. They're not always going to tell me right away.
They won't.
And it doesn't happen in one conversation either. It really does not. So one of the things I did that really worked very well was I did it for myself first. So I went and did my own advanced directives, and through that process I learned where I felt uncomfortable. I learned the things that I had to really think how I would talk to someone else about it. And in the end, I actually shared my advanced directives with my parents.
Wow, what a creative, wonderful way to get two
Well, you
people
set the
to go.
example. You showed them that as the daughter in the family, that you had nothing to fear, that you just wanted them to know. And I think that is wonderful.
It opened the dialogue.
Yes, exactly, right. And when we were talking before, you said that you put some letters in there for your family. I love that.
I did, and sometimes I think just as hard as it is to talk about death, sometimes, especially with family members who perhaps are not close to God for whatever reason at that point in their life, it's not easy to talk to them either. And maybe they won't hear us when we're talking. So I recently updated my advanced directives and my wishes, and I wrote a note to my 2 children. And I expressed in there how much I had this relationship with God my entire life and what it meant to me and what really mattered and how I began to understand that, and that I wanted that for them. So I left that message for them to help them understand. It's not the material things in this world.
It's your heart and where you're going.
Exactly.
And that reminds me, I had a friend once, she was just a darling woman, and one of the pains that she carried her whole life was that her children, they didn't practice their faith. And but she was just a wonderful woman, and she kept a journal, and she would write all of her experiences of God in there. And she told me, Mary, she goes, I'm leaving this for my children so that when I'm gone, they will see how I walked with Christ. And I thought, well, that was a great idea, but I didn't know what would happen. Well, after she died, she put my name in the book. I said, okay, fine. And about a month later, her daughter called me, and she said, Mary, I never realized what my mother's faith did for her life each day, even when she was suffering. And so through her mother's death and this journal that she kept, like the letters for your children, this woman's daughter has come back to the faith.
And
yes, joy is abounding, and that came through the pain of losing someone. But because Mary thought well enough to write in the journals, so. I think anything we can do, and that constitutes a holy death. That it brings Jesus into this passing from this life to the next.
And giving some forethought and some planning is just where we, as smart people in the society, need to be. There are programs where people can do a spiritual will. It's the same idea as a financial will. And you will the things that are of your spiritual life. So your letters would be part of that spiritual will. And that journal would be part of a spiritual will. So there are those programs which I think are really helpful.
What a beautiful gift, though, to be able to say, I know I have my grandmother's Sacred Heart of Jesus statue, and she made sure that I knew that was going to be mine. So what you're saying is, basically, you can spell those things out for people.
beforehand. And
A favorite
oftentimes-
rosary.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
those are spiritual gifts you can give to your family members after you go.
Absolutely.
And what a wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful tribute.
Good
yeah.
idea.
You know,
So this whole idea of a holy death is to me such a beautiful idea, and it takes away some of the fear of what we are facing. So how do we approach somebody who's saying, "Oh, I just don't want to talk about this"?
So it's not easy. I'm going to be straightforward. It
Right,
is
it's
not
not easy. No.
That's actually my mom. So Mom, if you're watching,
yes, okay.
that is my mom. My dad, on the other hand, is very open. So I think we all, especially for people we've had relationships with, we understand, you know, where they're at. And so maybe perhaps you do it through a less direct method.
Okay.
Okay. With my mom, it was more talking with her about what brings her happiness. Again, taking the emphasis off of the fear piece and the end piece, but what brings her happiness, and kind of leading her up to what do you really want.
Okay.
Right? Now, if she's still resistant, maybe I'm not the person to talk with her as her
Right.
daughter.
Sometimes
And
it's easier to talk to a professional or a
Exactly.
stranger or a friend. This is what I'd like, because you know I would probably start crying if I was talking about it with my
Yeah.
kids, right? But you know, another thing is alleviating the guilt for the person left behind, because you know, when my dad passed away, he had a DNR over his bed, do not resuscitate, and he died of heart problems, and so it wasn't going to get any better. But I had the grace of being with him at his holy death, and you know, he passed right in front of me, and the bells went off on all the machines. The nurses and doctors came running in, and they said to me, "Do you want to override the DNR?" And I paused for a minute, and I said, "No." I said, "You know what? That was his will." I said, "It's God calling him home. Who am I to interfere?"
Yes.
And so, I kissed him, and I said, "Dad, you know, I'll see you on the other side. I'm going to lose
That's
it now."
so beautiful.
So yeah,
that's a
but
holy death.
It is a holy death, absolutely.
That's a holy
yeah.
death.
Yeah.
And you know, I cared for my mother-in-law, and holy death in her circumstance was really that I gave her dignity.
Right.
Where she was being cared for in a skilled facility, she had some things happen there where she was not necessarily, she wasn't treated with
No.
dignity or respect. For her, a holy death was having that dignity and respect. And honestly, I think all of us, and I've not been there yet, but she knew as the time came closer,
Right.
there was a deeper serenity and peace in her spirit, in her soul.
You bet.
And I really do believe that the two closest times we are to God is at birth
Yep.
and at death. And there was something that changed in her that gave me what I needed
Right.
to help her through that process.
And I think you named it. It's surrendering. If we can help our loved ones who are really critically sick to just surrender and to say, you know, stop.
Right.
You
Right.
don't need
It's
to fight
okay.
any.
You
It's
can
okay.
let go.
It's okay,
Yes.
right? And you hear that all the time. It's okay.
Right.
You can go home now. You know, sometimes they just need our permission to let them go, because the Lord's calling them. I mean, He's been calling all of us since the day we were born.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know, at some point on our journey, you know, the card is up, and I think yes, as loved ones, as family members, that's the greatest gift we can give them, is the gift of a peaceful surrender.
Yeah.
Right. You know.
Well, my parents were parents of a very large number of children. I have a lot of brothers and sisters, and so when their time for death came, they were surrounded by many of their children at home, in their own beds, singing and praying.
Oh,
That's
Can you
beautiful.
imagine? That's almost angelic.
It
you
is.
know?
Well,
It
that's
is.
what they show in movies sometimes, and I think to
Right.
myself, you know, that is really the absolute ideal way. You know, surround in your own room,
Yes.
surrounded by people praying for you and your family. But not everybody gets that.
No, everybody can
No.
do
And so
it
that
either.
is the gift
Absolutely.
of, you know, a terminally ill person, that you can help them get to that point. You know, so for our viewers that are going, well, I don't know what to do, you know, just help that person realize that Jesus is there with them, that this suffering is not for no reason at all, and to surrender. And you know,
Yes.
and if God wants you to get better, you surely will. But if God is calling you home, then you know it's
There's-
okay.
yeah.
We will we will be with you someday, right?
And I think one of the hardest things for people, at least I knew it was for me, is filling that dead space, the air. You know, we feel like, I think as humans, we have to talk.
Right.
We have to be able to say something. Remember that comfort is not always words. Comfort is your presence.
Yes.
Comfort is your touch. Comfort might be listening to music together, or you praying while the other person is just simply present with you. And that's also part of a holy death.
Yes.
Being present to that, to witness it.
Definitely.
Yes, where two or more are gathered, Jesus is right there. So, you know, when you touch on music, I think music is really a beautiful part of bringing people to a serene place, even because sometimes the person that's sick is so sick they can't pray themselves.
Right.
So we pray with them and for them. And again, in families, for our viewers that are listening, and there are a lot of, you know, constraints, you know, you do what you can, and every night you surrender it to the Lord, because He's with you.
I know.
And, you know.
Absolutely.
And that moment of passing, it might be the most peaceful moment in the whole time of that sickness. You know, it might have been really conflicting, but, you know, God's there.
Right.
The angels are calling them home.
If you can do that.
If you can.
Now, ladies, some of my experiences have been someone dies suddenly, and they had never been close to the Lord. And of course, my first prayers are, "Dear Lord, have mercy on this person."
Absolutely.
Right.
I do not know, and will I not never judge, but I have a hard time with people who have not known the Lord, have died suddenly. I probably could use some counseling on that one. That issue.
Well, come to Mayslake. We have
Yes.
wonderful counselors, but you know that's like a program all in itself. That's tough. But who knows what was on that person's heart that very last moment before they went home? We don't know. But all we can do is pray for them.
Yeah.
And know that all people are made in the image and likeness of God.
Sure. But that's when a lot of help is needed, basically,
Yes.
for the survivor.
Right.
And that's where I think, Mary, you nailed it, which is prayer.
Prayer.
You know, there is so much power in prayer. And we're told through our faith and our teachings that, you know, through prayer, you know, we pray for the souls in purgatory. You're right, we don't judge, we don't know.
No, we don't know.
But we do pray for those souls, and our prayers are heard. Our
Absolutely.
prayers are heard.
And they're heard for the person that passed, but they're also heard for us to find that plateau
Right.
of peace that we
Our
can
own
let them
peace.
go and not worry.
Yeah.
And you know, I would love. We probably need a part 2 on this.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. But you know, because we're running out of time. But I do want our viewers to know about this wonderful book that we've got, Every Day with Mary. And you know what? Who knew better to walk the cross than Mary? She witnessed the death of her son, and yet she never lost her faith. And so in this book, which is just a daily devotional, so it takes you maybe a minute and a half to read it, just to set your day you know, on the right course. It's a wonderful way to find peace and tranquility on your journey as you take care of your loved ones and sick ones. So
How do you get one?
you can buy, and thank you very much. You can get one at MayslakeMinistries.org, or you can get them from our Sunday Visitor or Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. It's
Great.
brand new, out this week. So on behalf of Mayslake Ministries, I'd like to thank Deb, and I'd like to thank the Village of Addison, Downers Grove, and Comcast Cable TV for the opportunity to join you on your spiritual journey. I hope that something we said today inspired you or perhaps challenged you, but most of all, made you hunger for Jesus in your life. For more information on the many ways that Mayslake Ministries can help you on your spiritual journey, especially with grief, visit our website at MayslakeMinistries.org or call us at 630-852-9000. We are here for you. Until next time, God bless.